On March 4th, 2022, something extraordinary happened on the moon. A mysterious rocket booster crashed into the surface, capturing the attention of the scientific community. This booster had been silently orbiting our planet since 2015, closely monitored by researchers. When it finally made impact, it formed a peculiar double crater, unlike anything seen before. What made this event even more intriguing was the lack of a clear explanation for its origin. No nation or organization came forward to claim responsibility for launching the rocket booster, leaving everyone puzzled. Speculations arose, suggesting the involvement of covert government programs or secretive corporations. The unique characteristics of the crater raised important questions about how it formed and what caused the explosion. But guess what? Figuring out the origin of the rocket booster, known as WE0913A, is actually one of the simpler aspects of this mystery. It's highly unlikely that it came from a secret government program, because countries have been closely monitoring rocket launches for the past 70 years since the invention of the intercontinental ballistic missile. Even when the Russians launched Sputnik 1 in 1957, American intelligences were already aware of it. With the advancements in space surveillance and detection capabilities, it's nearly impossible to launch a rocket or satellite without anyone noticing it. Even if a government tried to hide it, independent astronomers would most likely detect it. Considering all of this, it becomes highly improbable that the double crater resulted from a covert government program. Independent astronomers have been closely monitoring the mysterious rocket since 2015, carefully tracking its path and rotation. Through their observations, they were able to determine which countries the rocket had passed over during its journey. Initially, there was speculation that it might be a stage from a SpaceX rocket. However, further investigation led to a more plausible explanation. The rocket's trajectory aligned remarkably well with China's Chang'e 5T1 mission, which was launched on the same day. In addition, researchers from the University of Arizona's Space Domain Awareness Lab conducted a spectroscopic survey using a telescope. By analyzing the paint on the rocket and comparing it to existing records, they found a close resemblance to China's rocket style rather than SpaceX's. Taking all these pieces of evidence into account, astronomer Jonathan McDowell concluded with a 90% certainty that the mystery rocket belonged to China. He claimed that the mission took place in October 2014, which was a significant part of China's lunar exploration program. Its objective was to test key technologies for future lunar missions. It involved the launch of an uncrewed spacecraft, which was launched into a lunar flyby trajectory using the Long March 3C rocket, the same type of rocket as the one that produced the mysterious upper stage found on the moon. This lunar flyby served as a precursor to the Chang'e 5 mission, which successfully returned lunar samples to Earth in 2020. Despite the abundance of compelling evidence pointing to China's involvement, they've strongly denied any connection. When questioned by journalist Wang Wenbin, the foreign ministry spokesman provided the following statement. Based on China's monitoring, the upper stage of the Chang'e 5 mission rocket re-entered Earth's atmosphere in a controlled manner and completely disintegrated. China's aerospace activities always adhere to international law. Some astronomers speculate that China may have innocently misunderstood the situation or intentionally lied about the involvement. However, considering the strong evidence against them, why would they deny it? The answer lies in the fact that China wants to avoid being seen as violating international law. This issue highlights a broader global problem that many may not be aware of: international space law. International space law does exist, although it's not comprehensive. It consists of a collection of treaties and agreements that form a regulatory framework for space activities. One of the most significant treaties is the Outer Space Treaty of 1967, which establishes principles for peaceful space exploration and usage. The Outer Space Treaty acknowledges the right of nations to explore space peacefully and prohibits the placement of weapons of mass destruction in space. It also holds nations accountable for the actions of their citizens or entities in space. If the rocket stage is indeed linked to China's mission, they would be held responsible for any contamination or damage caused by the rocket on the moon. Under international law, celestial bodies like the moon are designated for peaceful purposes. The Outer Space Treaty explicitly prohibits the deployment of nuclear weapons in space, which is why we don't see orbiting satellites equipped with such capabilities today. It is crucial to prevent contamination in space, as even the presence of bacteria on a rocket could have detrimental effects. If the rocket had collided with a satellite or a future lunar base, it would be a clear violation of international law. However, the reality is that space law remains largely unregulated, as evident from the mysterious origin of the rocket. In 2003, the US Air Force proposed launching tungsten rods, known as rods from gods, from space. These projectiles would have destructive force similar to a small tactical nuclear weapon, without the radiation. Furthermore, the development of anti-satellite, ASAT missiles, and defensive measures by various countries introduces additional complexity and unexpected risks. ASAT missile tests, like Russia's experiment on its own satellite, generate significant amounts of debris in Earth's orbit. These activities highlight the need for stronger regulations and adherence to international space law to ensure the peaceful and sustainable use of outer space. There is a significant lack of trust between major powers right now, which makes the challenges we face even more apparent. An incident that happened in January 2018 illustrates this problem. A company called Swarm from the United States wanted to launch 4 satellites, but was denied permission by the US Federal Communications Commission. Despite the denial, Swarm went ahead and launched the satellites in India without approval from the government. As a result, Swarm faced legal consequences and had to pay a fine of $900,000 imposed by the FCC. If nations don't agree on a framework for space exploration, there's a real risk that space exploration could become chaotic and conflict-prone, similar to the Wild West. The problem with international law and space law is enforcing them. Anyone can make a law, but how do we make sure it's followed? Implications and conflict. The debris in space, which can last for many years, is a big danger to other satellites. It could cause a terrible domino effect called Kessler syndrome. The Kessler syndrome, proposed in 1978, describes a situation where space debris collisions in low Earth orbit can cause a cascade effect. This was before space became a multinational commercial venture. In 2009, it was concluded that the debris environment was already unstable. Efforts to remove debris may fail because new collisions generate fragments faster than atmospheric drag can clear them away. If conflicts in space were to get worse, it could have severe consequences. It might make space unreachable for all countries because there would be too much debris everywhere. If there isn't good regulation and oversight, debris could crash into working satellites or spacecraft. This could lead to the loss of important communication systems, scientific tools, and even human lives. Also, without clear rules and a way to enforce them in space law, countries might end up in conflicts. A significant accident in space that escalates and becomes uncontrollable can have long-lasting consequences. It could prevent us from accessing space for many decades or even longer, depending on the severity of the incident. This would have a profound impact on the future of human civilization. Additionally, the loss of satellites in such a scenario would create chaos and disruptions on Earth, especially considering the current global situation. We can't expect humans to behave any better in space than they do on Earth. It's like asking a kid if they did something bad when it comes to asking the Chinese government about irresponsible actions. However, they are not the only ones responsible for such behavior. While it's easy to blame the Chinese government in the situation, it's important to understand that irresponsible actions in space can happen from any country. It's our collective responsibility to address and prevent them. As we look to the future, let's work together to overcome challenges, bridge our knowledge gaps, and create a path of responsible and peaceful exploration in outer space. By doing this, we can unlock endless possibilities beyond our planet and create a better future for everyone.